We're going to be talking today about doing things that you have to do that you don't want to do. Look, I don't know if there's any other video like this on YouTube. There needs to be. Because look, as much as I talked about productivity, planning, calendaring, being successful, there is just times I just don't want to do stuff. Like a lot. I don't want to do it. And so today we're talking about what do you do when you don't want to do it? Like how do you power through that struggle? And I'm going to give you 4 practical tips that work for me most of the time. Not all the time, because one thing about me, I'm going to keep it real. Nothing's 100 proof. But these 4 things are where I go to dig deep to get myself where I need to be. And the foundation definitely is discipline. So check out my discipline video because that's where it starts. But even with discipline, there are just times I don't want to do it. So let's talk about tip number 1. So tip number 1 is perspective. This is most of the time how I get grounded and get back to it. I usually think about what I don't want to do. Most of the time it has to do with working out. Sometimes it has to do with like having to go someplace I don't want to go, socializing with people I don't want to socialize with. In case you haven't picked up, I am definitely more of an introvert socially. I don't mind talking to people. I do a lot of that for a living. So when I think about the things that I don't want to do, like working out, going places, having to talk to people I don't want to talk to, I literally think about perspective. And when I say perspective, this is specifically what I mean. When I think about not working out, I think about people who would do anything to trade places with me when it comes to working out. I think of people who are physically limited and don't have the ability because life has lifed for them. And I think about myself. Sometimes I will literally think about I could be somewhere in a hospital bed. I could be somewhere, just not able to do the simple things like breathing clean air. I could be someplace where I am incapacitated. I could be someplace where I'm not allowed to do those things. And I know that sounds dramatic, but that ability to have perspective about how dare you don't go move your body when you can move your body, and there are people who want to move their body who can't move their body, gets me straight real quick. When it comes to like going and dealing with people I don't want to deal with, I think about jobs or situations I've been in previously where I was like, Lord Jesus, if you just get me out of this situation, if you just hear my prayer. And he has. And so I'm like thinking about going back to that scenario versus any scenario I am now gets me grounded real quick, fast, in a hurry. So I'm not saying you don't have to have a doomsday perspective in order to get yourself motivated, but sometimes when you step back and you realize how blessed you are and the resources that you have, even if they're not what you want them to be, you're actually in a pretty darn good place. The second thing is the ability to think about what the outcome will be if I do it. So in the example of socializing or an example of weight loss, I think about the outcome if I actually get up and do it is I am depositing in the bank of discipline. That's a word. And so let's stop and pause there for just a little bit. I am depositing into the bank of discipline. Every time I do something I don't want to do, I am making a deposit or a withdrawal in the bank of discipline. When you get up and do the things that you don't want to do and you still do them, you are making a deposit. When you are deciding to sleep in, hit the snooze, I'll pick up on it tomorrow, the next day, next week, next month, you're making multiple withdrawals in the bank of discipline. Discipline, and that's why I'm such a big fan of it, and I have a whole two different dedicated videos on the topic that I'll make sure I link. But I think about, am I making a withdrawal or am I making a deposit? And when I think of it from that angle, then I'm like, is it really worth it in this moment for me to make a withdrawal? And sometimes I do. Like sometimes I'll be like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not going. I don't want to do it. And in that moment, I make that decision for me. This is worth me withdrawing out of that account. And then most times more than not, I'm like, okay, it's almost like faith. Discipline is almost like faith. The more you utilize it, the more you depend on it, the more you do it, it truly gets you in a place where then in the hard moments, you're able to get up and go. So first is perspective. Number 2, I think about, am I depositing or withdrawing in my bank of discipline? And then number 3, I think about how this impacts other people. And I always start with the first two, which is about me. Because, and I know that sounds selfish, but really it's not. And I need you to come with me for a second. The reason that it's not selfish to start with you is because if you're not taken care of physically, emotionally, spiritually, you're really not good to other people. So when I'm level set, when I'm grounded and I can breathe my own oxygen mask, then I can give it to other people. And so I think about how this impacts other people. If I don't do what I said I'm going to do, or if I don't do what I'm committed to do, is this somehow adversely impacting other people? Because one thing I am not a fan of is when people's actions adversely impact other people who had nothing to do with it. That sucks when you do that to other people. There's a difference between I didn't come through for you and I really wasn't gonna come through for you and you never knew that to begin with. There's another example of like, I'm the person that you're depending on and I don't show up. I don't honor our commitment. I don't honor my word. My word is my bond and I mean it. So I think about how this impacts other people. But what I'm very careful to do is not thinking about how it impacts other people more than it's going to impact me. And once again, I know that sounds selfish, but it's coming from a place of if I am not taking care of Diaka and I'm worried about what you got going on, you know, short of probably my children, then I'm really not honoring my commitment to myself. And I really can't honor my commitment to you because I'm probably half-assed doing it anyway because I don't want to be there and I don't want to be doing it because I didn't take care of me. So I do think obviously of, you know, how that makes other people feel. But one thing, I'm very loyal. I'm a loyal person. And when I say I'm going to do something, even when I don't want to do it, if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it because I'm very careful and calculated on what I say yes and what I say no to. And then the last tip for when I don't want to do something that I know that I need to do and I just have to do it is sometimes, y'all, and no one says this, you got to just straight thug it out. You got to just man up, woman up, pump yourself up, look yourself in the mirror, pull the sheets off, jump out the bed and get it done. Show up and do what you said you were going to do without motivation, without discipline, without thinking about anybody else, without thinking about yourself. Sometimes you just got to do it. That's called being an adult. I think where people get messed up is when the latter of just get up and do it becomes their normalcy. That last one, I don't pull from that well very often. Now there are times where I do, and it's there for reserve. And I know if I'm in the well of I have absolutely nothing to draw from, I'm just doing this because I'm doing it, then I know that that's a rarity. But I know it just has to be done. Like, you just gotta do it. Like, have you ever been in a situation where sometimes this will happen at work, like I'm like, okay, this is not going the direction that it needs to go, and if I don't get in here and intervene right now, it's not going to be what it needs to be. And so sometimes you just got to do it. Even though it wasn't my job, I'm not prepared to do it, we just got to do it. We got to thug it through, because at the other side of this, we have to think about what the outcome is going to be down the road. So sometimes you just got to put your big girl panties on and get out there and get it done and make it happen. And that's just the truth. So this was just a quick reminder that yes, we all struggle with things that we don't want to do, and sometimes we just have to do them. So hopefully these 4 different kind of resources or reminders from me to you are just kind of re-emphasizing the fact that life is full of these moments. It's just being very strategic and careful not to make your life all of these moments. These moments should not be your normalcy. Every day you shouldn't hate doing something. If you hate doing something every day, I would strongly suggest that you evaluate what that is and should you be there. I've had a job where I felt like that, and I did everything under the power of this earth to get out of that situation, because I knew long term that wasn't good for my mental health, my spiritual health. And yes, every day I had to tap into the well of I've just got to get it done, because I knew in that situation that that was about kids. I knew that was about teachers. I knew that was about adults, and that people were depending on me. And so it really wasn't that I wanted to be there. It was more or less, this is the right thing to do and I'm going to make it happen. But I didn't stay there. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do. If you're staying someplace where you're unhappy or you're mistreated or you're in a way where your light's being dimmed, that's never the place for you to be. So as always, thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you comment down below, and I will see you in the next video.